So you have finished knotting your mala and you are ready to put on your tassel. And in this video, I'm going to demonstrate how to do this with a charm. If you do not have a charm, you follow the same exact instructions, just basically pretend the charm isn't there. So I have my knotted mala, I have my needle, which is a little hard to see, some very sharp scissors, sewing scissors are best. I have my tassel thread, my guru bead, and my charm. So when you get to the end of the mala, you're going to go ahead and you're going to tie that last knot here after that last bead. I'm just going to move these things a little bit out of the way while I work here. So you're probably going to have an excess on the tail side of your mala, and here's the loop side. Do not cut the loop until your guru bead is on securely. So I'm going to trim the tail side though, approximately the same length as my loop. If you don't have an excess here, you want to at least cut this knot right here, cut it off. You can discard that. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to tie together the two ends. And these two knots that we're going to tie here, this is one. Leave your beads laying down so that you don't have gravity working against you. So just very gentle till they come together. There's one knot. And then here's your second knot. Okay? And you can pull that pretty hard, nice and tight. These two knots represent sort of the yin and yang. What they represent is the right side of the body, which is your giving side. It's your sun energy and your masculine. The left side of the body, which is your receiving, your moon energy, and your feminine. So these two knots here are that balance in the universe. So now we're going to need our needle, and I set it here. You're going to do the tail side first to get the guru bead on. So what you're going to do is just open up your needle. It's just a V shape wire. You're going to grab the tail side in the crook of that wire, like a sewing needle. Squeeze the two wires together, and then you're just going to feed your guru bead onto the needle and gently pull it onto the string. Then you can back the needle off of those threads, and you're going to grab the loop side of your cord, and you're going to actually grab it in the loop with your needle, so that you only have now 2 layers of cord that need to fit through that hole that already has 2 thicknesses inside. So you're simply going to feed the needle through one more time, the same direction as if you're sewing. Pull, take the needle off. Make sure your 4 strings are flush with each other, and just push the guru bead down. So now you're going to separate the loop side from the tail side once again, and you're going to tie 1 knot here for oneness. Nice and tight. Again, keeping the 2 strings out to the side. It's time to attach the tassel. So we're going to get our tassel thread, and we're going to unwind the outer string and remove it to set it to the side. Do not unwind this perfect little packet of string here. You're simply going to lay it on top of your guru bead at the midway point, so you have a nice perpendicular cross here. And then you're going to tie the two sides of your cord together over the top of the tassel, making sure that it's fairly centered. It needs a little adjustment before you pull tightly. Just adjust it to where it's at the midpoint. You can check by bringing the two sides together and seeing if they're about the same length, and you can see that those are. So I'm going to go ahead and pull tight. So this will be 3 knots here, nice and tight, all 3 of them. And these knots represent the Trinity. So whatever the Trinity means to you, it could be body, mind, spirit. For Buddhists, it's Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. Hinduism has Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva. Could be Maiden, Mother, Crone, Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Whatever that looks like in your spiritual path is great. So we have 3 very nice tight knots now. So now it's okay to trim these strings here, meaning it's okay to cut that loop side finally. So just approximately the same length as my tassel strings. I'm going to just trim that so it's not in the way. And then we're going to cut all of the loops on both sides of the tassel. And this represents cutting through darkness and illusion. And usually you can get them all with one cut, but you can look at them closely to make sure you got them all. Okay. The next thing we're going to do is smooth our tassel. And we're going to just gently sort of comb it. I call it combing the hair. Gently just keep guiding all the cords and threads to go in the same direction. I'm going to prepare my string that's going to wrap around this tassel by putting the charm on it now. So I'm going to, this thread that's wrapped around your tassel, it's doubled. If you're not going to use a charm, you're just going to open that up flat. But since I'm going to use a charm at the midway point, I'm going to grab it with my needle like this. I'm going to feed that through the little hole at the top of the charm and just pull it through until I have a little bit of length. I'm going to remove my needle and I'm finished with that now. So I created another loop here on my thread. I'm just going to open up that loop and put my fingers through it, and then I'm going to grab the other 2 strings of the thread, and I'm just going to pull it through that loop and then pull them until the knot is tight around that metal. And now I've tied this on in such a way that no matter how I move the string, my charm isn't going to slide everywhere. So I'm going to lay this down now in front of me, and I'm going to lay my charm face down so that it ends up being the correct orientation on my tassel. Some charms are 2-sided, so it doesn't matter which way you lay it, but this one is not. So face down. And I do it upside down because I do my tassel away from me. So again, I'm just going to make sure that I like to keep those original cords tucked in the center of my tassel so they don't poke out. And again, I'm just going to make sure that this is completely flush, completely smooth. That looks pretty good. So I'm going to lay that on top of the Buddha head that I have, right on top of the charm, right towards the top of my tassel. So wherever I tie these 2 threads is going to determine how big the bubble is. And I call this the bubble right here. So I'm going to go ahead and tie these 2 sides together. I don't tie a knot here, but you certainly can if you wish. But you do want to keep your cord taut. Keep tension on both sides so that this stays nice and tight. So I'm going to keep these 2 cords away from each other, these 2 strings, I kind of have them woven through my fingers. I'm going to grab the top of my tassel, the bubble, with my left hand, keeping that cord out of the way, and with my right hand I'm going to wrap to create the band at the top of the tassel. And I'm going to wrap a little bit over this ring, and each time I go around I want the cord to land next to the string that came before it so that I'm making a thick band and not just wrapping it right on top of itself. I'm going to wrap 5 times in each direction for the 5 elements. So we have water, earth, fire, air, and ether. And you can see how I made a nice band while wrapping over the top of that metal loop. If you don't have a charm, again, you just wrap it, but it should still look about like that. Again, I'm going to hold this string out of the way. This time I'm going to pinch on top of the charm and hold the tassel on this hand, so this hand is free. And now I'm going to wrap away from me. The first time I wrapped towards me, I'm going to wrap away from me this time. Otherwise I won't be able to tie the knot at the end. So here we go, 5 times. And you do these pretty tight. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So now that I've followed the same path from top to bottom, just making a double layer over that first band that I created, I'm going to flip this over, again away from me. This is my wrap string. So this is what it should look like. Both of your strings should be at the bottom of the band, not at the top. And they should be coming from opposite directions. If they're coming from the same side, both of them, you need to unwind and wind that last one in the other direction. It just means you went the wrong way. So now we're going to tie these together at the bottom of your band, like so. You can pull pretty tight, but don't yank on these ones. They're not as strong as your cord. And I tie 3 little knots right here. And since I was never taught what these particular knots mean, I say these are your wild card and you get to choose. So there's 3. Okay, we're almost finished. So then I just kind of like to part the tassel and tuck these cords in the middle. And then I smooth again. Smooth it down. On both sides, just kind of check if you have any wayward threads that are just not going the right direction. Just kind of help them out a little bit. And once you're pretty happy with how smooth it is, you're going to kind of look at your tassel and you're going to see where's your shortest strings. And mine are about right here, so that's about where I'm going to cut with my very sharp scissors. The sharper the better for a nicer cut. And this last cut represents cutting away negativity. So I'm just going to go straight across. Move that out of the way. That was a pretty good one, but sometimes you'll notice there's a few little ones that didn't quite get evened out, and so you just take your scissors and you're just going to trim a tiny bit here and there as you notice them. And it sometimes takes a minute to really even them out. Remember, your tassel does not have to be perfect. Tassels get very messy. They get dirty, they get frayed, they start to look more like this no matter how perfect they begin, and that's okay. Your tassel should be well loved. So this one looks pretty good, and I've got my Buddha head charm right there. And now you have yourself a beautiful tassel on your beautifully knotted handmade mala. Congratulations, and thank you for learning from me. Namaste.